Raiders up against the Seattle Seahawks. Coming up here on today's show, I'm going to give you a quick little preview of what the Silver and Black are going to be looking like going into this matchup. I'm going to tell you some of the top players to watch on offense and on defense. I'm going to be breaking down which position battles to keep a close eye on. The way that today's show is going to go is I'm going to go from position by position, tell you which players I'm going to be looking at, which stories to follow along. But here's the thing. If you don't already know, I'm going to be live. Raiders up against the Seattle Seahawks 2 hours before kickoff, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live here on the Raiders Report. And we're going to be giving away an Ashton Jeanty jersey. The only thing that you got to do if you want to win, you got to be here and you got to be subscribed. If you're not watching the show, if you're not subscribed, you will not win. But if you're watching the show and you're sub, you're going to have a chance to go home with an Ashton Jeanty jersey. Let's first go here to what exactly I think y'all should be looking for. And again, I'm going to go position by position. The first thing I'm looking at the quarterback spot is Geno Smith going to play against his old team? Pete Carroll spoke to the media on Tuesday and essentially said that everybody's going to be ready to go. Now, again, I am recording this on Tuesday, so please keep that in mind. But it kind of sounded like to me the starters could play. It also sounded like maybe they won't play. I don't exactly know. What I do know is Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback too, and I do anticipate that he's probably going to play majority of the first half. If I had to guess, maybe Geno gets, I don't know, 1 drive, maybe 2 drives. Pete typically doesn't play his quarterbacks all that often, typically doesn't play his starters, but because this is a brand new regime, a brand new offense, if it was up to me, I'm going to put my guys out there. I do anticipate Cam Miller is going to play majority of the second half, and I think that that's what you're going to see for the Las Vegas Raiders a lot this preseason. Aiden in the first, Cam Miller in the second. I think that's how this thing's going to go. Let's go to the running back position next up here, and obviously all eyes are going to be on Ashton Jeanty. Will he get work in the kick return game? He's listed as right now the number 2 kick return punt returner for the Raiders. Punt returner he's listed as. Also, I feel like I got to sneeze. Nope, just made it. So does Jeanty get any carries? Does he get work out of the backfield? The Raiders listed Raheem Mostert, Chris Collier, Zamir White as the running back too. That's a must-watch running back battle because McCormick and Laube, they were listed at RB3. And if the Silver and Black decide to keep 5 running backs, if they decide to keep 4 running backs, I do really think it's going to come down to Mostert, Collier, Zamir White. I was hoping that Sincere was going to be able to get a shot, but he's going to have to go out there and have himself a solid game. He's going to be competing. The running back position is going to be one that Chip Kelly uses a lot, and I think the way that they use those backs might illustrate how this team might try to go out and use Jeanty during the regular season. Let's go to the wide receiver room next here, and out of all the position groups on offense, this might be the one to pay the closest attention to. Jacoby Tucker and Dante Thornton Jr., I would imagine are going to be your top 3 wide receivers. Do they first get run? Alex Bachman, Philip Dorsett are fighting for a roster spot right now, and on Tuesday's practice, them, including Colin Johnson, were getting some work with the ones. But for the rookies, Jack Bech and Tommy Mellott. Jack Bech, I would say right now, is wide receiver 4 on this team. Tommy Mellott's probably like wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8, and I just want to see him get out there on the field. I want to see what he looks like because I know how talented he is. But if he's falling behind, as far as what I've heard he's falling behind, I do wonder if he is, on that roster bubble. The wide receiver room, though, got to be looking at it very closely in this preseason game. Here's going to be the pinned comment, though, on today's program. Which Raiders player are you most excited to watch up against the Seattle Seahawks? While this YouTube ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down, and I want you to answer this question. If you could let the ad play for the full 30 seconds, 45, I'd greatly appreciate it. My answer is going to be coming up here in just a moment. I will admit, these were not supposed to be ranked, so that's on me for not communicating that to Chugs, but the top 5 players that I think in top 5 things that you need to be looking for in this game. Geno Smith at quarterback. Obviously going to be something I'm looking at. All of the rookies, what exactly do they look like? The Raiders just traded for Thomas Booker. How does he end up playing? Jamal Adams has been getting a lot of work at linebacker. And then Jackson Powers-Johnson. He needs to play well because I was a little bit disappointed in his Raiders mock performance. He needs to step up. He needs to be able to prove to Pete that he deserves to be that starting right guard for this team. Let's go to the tight end room. All eyes are going to be on Brock Bowers. Quite frankly, I don't know if I need to see Bowers play. There's a few players that, I'll be real, I don't really think I need to see him play. Bowers probably is one of those, but I don't know if he's going to go out there or not. How does Michael Mayer look in action? He's been getting a lot of work from Chip Kelly, and he's been somebody that the Raiders have really put a strong focus point on this entire offseason. Ian Thomas, Albert O, they're battling right now for that tight end 3 spot. At least that's what was listed on the Raiders depth chart. For somebody like Quadir Ishmael, for somebody like Carter Runyon, what exactly do they look like in terms of that practice squad competition? But for the tight end room, Ian Thomas, Albert O, Michael Mayer is where I'm going to be focusing on. And then the offensive line. A lot of different moving parts. A lot of different moving pieces overall. And Jordan Meredith sounds like he's going to be the starter at the center position. And if it was up to me right now, if I had to guess, the starting offensive line that you see pictured is probably going to be the starting offensive line that you're going to see in that Week 1 game, or at least for the first preseason game. But right now, between JPJ, Jordan Meredith, Parham, Kappa, I think what you're seeing right now, there's a battle for like that interior position. How do the rookies look? Charles Grant, Caleb Rogers. Charles Grant's going to be playing tackle. Caleb Rogers is going to be playing offensive guard. But that starting offensive 5, if they trot out Colton Miller, if Colton Miller is the one they trot out there and I see him, I'm really going to believe that offensive line, if Colton Miller is out there, is the offensive line that they believe is their top 5 unit, and the unit that you're probably going to see Week 1 up against the New England Patriots. Coming up next here on the show, though, what to watch for on the defensive side of the football. And as excited as I am to see the offense, because I think the Raiders' offense is light years ahead of where this defense is right now, if I'm being honest with you, I do think, though, we're going to learn more about the defense during this preseason game because of all the moving parts they have on defense right now after the trade with Chakorian, with the trade with Thomas Booker compared to the offensive side. So I'd almost make the argument that defense might be more important to watch in this game, though offense is going to be the more entertaining side to watch. Before we get into that, though, I know I said I'm giving away an Ashton Jeanty jersey during the game. I'm also presenting an amazing deal right now to any Raider fan out there that needs a brand new jersey. I mean this when I say this. There are tons of different Raiders jerseys available at chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys. I'm going to say it again in case you weren't paying attention. chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys. This link right here is in the live chat if you're watching this live video. It's also going to be down in the comments. It's also going to be down in the description if you were unable to watch this live. From Raiders Hall of Fame players to youth jerseys and all different shapes and sizes, small up to 5XL. They got big and tall jerseys, Mitchell and Ness custom jerseys. They have jerseys for your kids. They have jerseys for your significant others. If you need a Raiders jersey, they're on sale right now, and I have no idea how much longer they're going to be on sale for. So if you miss this deal, I'll be real, I don't think you're going to find a better deal. Heck, I just saw a Max Crosby jersey for $79.99. That's a hell of a steal, if you ask me. Let's go now to the defensive side of the football. First off, we're going to look at the defensive ends. If Max Crosby's on the field, you got to watch him, right? He's a game wrecker. He had a fumble recovery for a touchdown in the Raiders mock game. But Malcolm Kuntz, Tyree Wilson, where do they line up Tyree? How much do they line him at defensive tackle? How healthy does Malcolm look? What does that first step look like? The Raiders listed Tonka Hemingway as a defensive end in their first depth chart. Where do they use him? How much are they going to use Tonka the way they use Tyree, kind of like an interior player? A player like Ja Joyner, a UDFA, somebody that's been really fighting for a roster spot. But I'll tell you this, the number one player that I think you could have made an argument that was one of the biggest winners from that Raiders mock game, Jafari Harvey. And he was really stood out to me. I think he was somebody that could have had 2 sacks. I loved what I saw from him in that mock game. And if he goes out there and he has another really solid preseason performance, I think that this could be low-key a player that we look at and go, that could be a potential Charles Snowden replacement if he has ended up suspended. Let's go to the defensive tackle room, and all eyes are going to be on the DTs. No Christian Wilkins. Lecky Fotu was in a boot on Tuesday, so we don't know how healthy he's going to be. But that interior defensive line, it's got to be important. And sure, you're going to look at Thomas Booker, who the Raiders just traded for. Will Adam Butler get run? Quite frankly, I actually don't think that he needs any run. If it was up to me, I would really want to see what you got in Thomas Booker. I would really want to see what you got in Keandre Coburn, a player that the Raiders signed last week. What does J.J. Pegues look like? Because if Tonka's going to be converted defensive end, That means JJ is going to get a lot of work on the interior, and he's a really fun player, a lot of versatility, but I need to see more out of him based on what I've heard from training camp. Jonnu Lalu, Zach Carter, Leki Fotu, they're all battling for that defensive tackle 2 spot, but I do think if Fotu's out, that could be more opportunity for Booker, more opportunity for some of these other defensive tackles, but Jonnu Lalu and Zach Carter have a massive opportunity in front of them right now, and I do think that both of those guys are going to go out there and give 110%. Quite frankly, I'd pay both of these guys the entire first half in this game. So give me a yes, give me a no, because I think when you talk about the preseason, this is always a topic of discussion. Do you play your starters or do you decide to sit your starters? You're about to get it with another YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, scroll on down and give me your answer. If it was up to me, there are players like Max Crosby. There's players like Colton Miller. There's probably going to be a player along the lines of like Brock Bowers where I'm going, you know what? I don't necessarily know if I need to see them. I would like to see Geno. I would like to see Ashton. In my mind, if this is the first year that you're playing with this regime on the offensive side of the football, if you're playing for the first time with this team on the defensive side of the football, I would like to see you in action. I'll also say this. If you want to save the action for the second preseason game, I would rather beat the 49ers than beat the Seahawks. Though, I don't know if Pete feels the exact same way. But if I got to pick one or the other, I think we should play our starters because we got a brand new regime, a brand new team, and this team looks a lot different compared to last season. Let's go to the next position here that I want to be able to talk about, and it's the linebacker position. And there was a lot of question marks around the linebacker position because I would say right now your top 4 linebackers on this team, Jermaine Pratt, Landon Roberts, Devin White, and Jamal Adams. To me, those are your 4 linebackers that I'm pretty confident are going to make this squad. But do I think this team ends up keeping 2 more linebackers potentially? Do they decide to keep 6? That's going to remain to be seen. But for players like Tommy Eichenberg, Jalen Smith, Cody Lindenberg, and Amari Gaynor, I don't think we can really truly fully realize how important this preseason is going to be because I know Eichenberg, I think he's got a leg up right now over Gaynor and Lindenberg. Gaynor was a UDFA, somebody that was very high on. He's not a lock to make this roster. Quite frankly, I think he's on the outside looking in. Cody Lindenberg was drafted in the 7th round. I think he's a coin flip right now to make this team. The linebacker position on special teams and what they do in the game, especially in coverage, is going to be something that I look at, and you're going to be able to see which guys are moving around, who's wearing the green dot, 3 linebacker sets, lot of moving parts there for this linebacker unit. I got 3 more positions to take a look at, but here's something that I need all of y'all to look at. I'm going to be in Tucson, Arizona on Friday, August 22nd, the day before the Raiders' final preseason game up against the Cardinals. Why? I'm going to be hanging out with my guy Fabian Moreno. I'm going to be hanging out with the, I believe, Raiders group out there in Tucson as well. And if you want to hang out with me, get some food, get some drinks, Friday, August 22nd from 12 to 3 p.m. Where? Desert Shark Tucson. Here's the address. Put it in your calendar. No excuses. Let's have a good time. And if we get a lot of people here, tell all your Raiders fans. If we get 200, 300 people here, I'll hang out all day. The more people we get here, the bigger the party can be, the better it helps out Fabian Moreno, and the longer we'll hang out and just have a good time. Can't wait to meet all y'all. Let's go to the cornerback position. And when you trade away Jacorian Bennett, there's going to be a lot of eyes at the cornerback spot. Yes, I want to see how Darian Porter, Eric Stokes, and DeCameron Richardson play. Those are your top 3 cornerbacks. But if we're just talking about the cornerback position from a who ends up making the roster standpoint, you got to look at Darnay Holmes and Greedy Vance, because I think Greedy Vance is a lot closer to stealing that job than what people realize. I also think that J.T. Woods was a big-time factor in why Las Vegas decided to move on from Jacorian, because J.T. was getting reps over Bennett. And Bennett sounds like he might have been cornerback 5, cornerback 4 at the absolute best. Are they using Woods as a strong safety, free safety, cornerback hybrid? Or are they only lining him up at corner, which is what they've been doing over the past few days at training camp practice? Greedy Vance is going to be somebody you absolutely got to watch. J.T. Woods has got to be somebody you absolutely have to watch. Darnay Holmes needs to have himself, though, a good game if he wants to make this roster. Let's go to the safety position next up here on the Raiders report. And safety to me is the biggest question mark that we have. I like Jeremy Chin. I like Isaiah Polamau. but neither of those guys is a true starting free safety, and Jeremy Chinn's been getting a lot of work in the nickel and at strong safety. Isaiah Paul-Lamal, they've kind of been using him the way they did last season, up near the box, strong safety, and with the injury to Lonnie Johnson Jr., which, by the way, again, Pete Carroll said that they're hoping they're going to be able to get him back in week 4 or 5. With him playing single high safety, which is what he did in that Raider mock game, who's going to be the player that steps up? Because the player that stepped up for him in that mock game was Chris Smith. Do they put Chris Smith on the field right away as a starter like they did Lonnie Johnson? Do they put Thomas Harper, who's got some safety experience playing up in the nickel? That's going to be really important. And then the Raiders player they drafted in the 7th round, the former Jim Thorpe Award winner, Trey Taylor, 7th rounder by that old regime. Somebody that I thought was going to be, somebody on this roster. Now it could be somebody on the outside looking in. If you want Trey Taylor to make this team, he needs to play well this preseason. And then let's go to the kickers. Let's go to special teams. I think when you have an opportunity to watch the guy that's the best in the world do it, you should watch A.J. Cole. When he punts, watch. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to see him out there in the field ever, but when you have an opportunity to watch somebody that is the best at what they do in the world, you're crazy not to watch them. Daniel Carlson, this is somebody that is in a contract year. He's probably somebody that feels like every kick that I do, whether it's the preseason, it's at the utmost importance. I'll be real, during the preseason, I want to see Chip Kelly go for it. I don't really want to see us kicking all these field goals, but if we got to do it, we got to do it. Punt return, kick return. I was really thinking that Tommy Mellott was going to be responsible for some of these duties, but he is actually listed as the 4th guy on the depth chart for special teams. Trey Tucker's listed as the starting punt returner and the starting kick returner. What exactly are we going to see from Jeanty? Because I don't know if you guys noticed that. Jeanty was listed as a potential punt returner. That scares the hell out of me. I'm not going to lie to you. If they want to do it in practice, I'm all for it. In a game, in a preseason game, I'll be real, I'm not crazy about it. But Tommy Mellott, that's somebody that's getting buried further and further on the roster. And I think based on what this team does during special teams, I think could really indicate what they decide to do with that final 10 guys in the roster and the practice squad. So one more time before I get on out of here again, I'm going to be live on the Raiders Report 2 hours before kickoff. It's going to be a late night, and I know that it's going to be a late night, but I would hope that you guys know we're going to have a hell of a time. We're going to be going crazy. We're going to be having a great, great time, and we're going to be giving away an Ashton Jeanty jersey. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Turn on those noties, and I'll see you guys Thursday. Raiders, Seahawks, late game. Let's get wild here on the Raiders Report.